Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, an angel among men, the man every parent could trust, your ideal neighbor. He certainly had many titles and did much to live up to them. Today, we'll highlight why Fred Rogers was such a graceful and genius speaker by watching the impromptu speech that he delivered to the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Communications. He's about to defend why he should receive over $20 million in federal funding for his kids' program.
Senator Pastore, this is a philosophical statement and would take about 10 minutes to read, so I'll not do that. One of the first things that a child learns in a healthy family is trust, and I trust what you have said that you will read this. It's very important to me. I care deeply about children. My first children...
Will it make you happy if you read it?
I'd just like to talk about it, if it's all right.
There are two things I wish to comment on here. The first is that whether by happenstance or design, Mr. Rogers does something quite clever by identifying the value that he champions above all others, one that is of increasing importance when talking about the subject material at hand, the delicate nature of educating the children of America. And he identifies trust. He has to sell himself as someone who is trustworthy. And he begins by discussing the relationship between him and the senator in this context of trust. The second thing I want to highlight is how he puts aside his script. By nature of the subject material that they're discussing, he has to present himself as someone who genuinely cares, who is unconditionally devoted towards making the best use of the funding, first of all, from a fiscally responsible perspective, but even casting that aside, that he is devoted toward presenting the best material for children.
Okay. My first children's program was on WQED 15 years ago, and its budget was $30. Now, with the help of the Sears Roebuck Foundation and National Educational Television, as well as all of the affiliated stations, each station pays to show our program. It's a unique kind of funding in educational television. With this help, now our program has a budget of $6,000. It may sound like quite a difference, but $6,000 pays for less than 2 minutes of cartoons. I'm very much concerned, as I know you are, about what's being delivered to our children in this country. And I've worked in the field of child development for 6 years now, trying to understand the inner needs of children.
I think it's masterfully presented. Of course, is there a better way to say this? Yes. But for Mr. Rogers, given his compassionate, unselfishly caring demeanor, I think this was an instance where he was very selective with his words because he knew what he will say will determine the outcome. And I think that's another reason why he didn't want to read off of a mere piece of paper. When you're speaking from the heart, it's very clear through the tonality of your voice, through your word choice, that you desperately want what you're there to rally for. As we watch through the remainder of this clip, be aware of how delicate he is with his language. He's intentional, calculated with his word choice. Mr. Rogers was actually known to be the one man who could never trip up over his words for that very reason.
We deal with such things as the inner drama of childhood. We don't have to bop somebody over the head to make him to make drama on the screen. We deal with such things as getting a haircut, or the feelings about brothers and sisters, and the kind of anger that arises in simple family situations. We made 100 programs for EEN, the Eastern Educational Network, and then when the money ran out, people in Boston and Pittsburgh and Chicago all came to the fore and said, we've got to have more of this neighborhood expression of care. This is what I give. I give an expression of care every day to each child to help him realize that he is unique. I end the program by saying, you've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are. And I feel that if we in public television can only make it clear that feelings are mentionable and manageable, we will have done a great service for mental health. I think that it's much more dramatic that two men could be working out their feelings of anger, much more dramatic than showing something of gunfire. I'm constantly concerned about what our children are seeing. And for 15 years, I have tried in this country and Canada to present what I feel is a meaningful expression of care.
Well, I'm supposed to be a pretty tough guy, and this is the first time I've had goosebumps for the last 2 days.
What's most remarkable about this is how Fred Rogers was able to extract a sense of empathy from someone, the senator, who otherwise considered himself to be stern and immune to the common sensation of goosebumps. I want to highlight a few instances of alliteration that were used, the repetition of the same vowel or consonant to create meaningful sentence structure. Fred Rogers had said, if we can talk about feelings as mentionable and manageable, I thought that was a very clever composition of words. And I don't know how much of this was rehearsed. I imagine that many of these talking points had also been delivered to very similar environments where he has to pound the pavement for fundraising or talk to broadcasting executives about hosting his show. So this is subject matter that he's quite familiar with.
Could I tell you the words of one of the songs which I feel is very important?
Yes.
This has to do with that good feeling of control, which I feel that children need to know is there. And it starts out, what do you do with the mad that you feel? And that first line came straight from a child. I work with children, doing puppets in very personal communication with small groups. What do you do with the mad that you feel? When you feel so mad you could bite. When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong, and nothing you do seems very right. What do you do? Do you punch a bag? Do you pound some clay or some dough? Do you round up friends for a game of tag or see how fast you go? It's great to be able to stop when you've planned a thing that's wrong and be able to do something else instead and think this song. I can stop when I want to, can stop when I wish, can stop, stop, stop anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this and know that the feeling is really mine. Know that there's something deep inside that helps us become what we can. For a girl can be someday a lady, and a boy can be someday a man.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Looks like you just earned the $20 million.
Here's why I think the delivery of the poem at the end was so impactful. It was also a very poetic move, and I don't mean poetic in the sense of rhyme or rhythm of the verses. I mean poetic because it is the best way that he can show his devotion of delivering quality material to the minds of children and giving the senator a taste for what that material is. It's a simple message, but one that appeals to all humans, hopefully at a fundamental level, but children in particular, because it's a very low resolution understanding of the world, and particularly in relation to this poem, the subject of anger. And it's almost like he's offering up this message. And I think there's much we can learn and extract and hopefully assimilate into the way that we communicate. And this is the first time I've watched a Fred Rogers video in probably over a decade, so it was pleasant to hear his voice. I hope you thought it was pleasant to hear mine, and thanks for watching.